It's the only thing that might affect the used car inventory nationally is if there's not as many lease returns coming due, then you might see a shortage of used cars again, and the supply will go down, and then prices might go up.
This is the Healey Brothers Show.
Today's episode is our monthly update on the used car market. Obviously, this month's a little different. We got Brian and Jason Healey here. So really, Brian, just to kind of just jump into it, like, what is the state of the used car market since we're going into the third quarter now of 2024?
It's out of control.
Yeah, I'd say it's it's about the same as where it's been the last 2-3 months. Some of the changes, yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, sales are still doing well. Values are actually declining a little bit. So for a used car buyer, that means that you're going to have a little bit better of pricing versus what it might have been, say, in April. And that's just the trend that it's always been historically. So if you take COVID out of the picture, it's always a downward trend. A 2022 model in January is going to be worth a little bit more than it is at the end of 2024. But COVID threw a little hitch in the system there, where values were increasing month over month. But that's gone. So we're back to the
and
real
more
world.
leases are hitting the market now and stuff like that. So
So there's more vehicles in the market. What also affects a little bit is the new car side. 1 year ago today, there was only about 1.2 million new cars on the ground, and now there's 2.2 million. So there's an extra million new cars with crazy great incentives, and that always affects the used car market too.
That's bringing the
yeah,
values
they're also
down.
trying to push their leftover models at the end of the year because they're trying to get rid of leftover. You have all these new models, 2025s coming in now. Dealers are still stuck with 2023s. There's stop sale on cars and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff has gone on that's crazy affecting the used car market. So
Big rebates on new cars affect used car values.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
makes sense.
We have some rebates of up to $15,000 on new cars. So that's just this one. Look at it, stirring people to new.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Now, one thing to just touch on briefly is that damn DMS software outage with CDK. Like, were we affected? Because looking at Cox Automotive, there were sales impacts were down and supplies were up due to it over that, I don't know, couple week period of time.
Not everybody was affected. There's about half the dealers in the entire country were affected. It's about 15,000.
And OEMs at the same time, you got to remember. So the manufacturers use their technology as well.
Yeah, and all the subsidiary or the third-party companies that tie into Cox or to CDK. So like a Cox Automotive, like Jay just said, all the OEMs, the Chevy, the
Marketing companies are tied into it to use your inventory and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on.
We're back online. CDK came back online, and almost all third-party companies like a Carfax or a Route 1, V-Auto, they're all now working with CDK, so we're good to go. But we were down for about 10 to 14 days. It was like the good old days. It was like 1984 all over again, and everything was handwritten. You'd come in and it was a handwritten repair order or a handwritten bill of sale. We had no access to any computer software system.
So we did have one, but we invested in this company, Carmatic, that kind of helped our guys get around, navigate through the issues so we can get some accurate payments.
Did we have that prior, or is that something?
Yeah, it was an investment we made years ago.
Okay.
Me and Brian.
I wasn't sure if you meant that you did it just during.
No. But we use it. We use some of their technology to help us. It's more for handling like leads that come in and stuff like that. But it is a desking tool, and it helped these guys really get some accurate payments. So we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot, because going the old school way, these guys are all used to the calculations being done for them.
Yep.
But some of the older guys really enjoyed it. They loved the paper and pencil.
Felt like
They didn't even want to go back to the computer.
Cox Automotive said used supply was up 2%. Now, was that just due to like some dealerships closing, less sales being done, or even like our used inventory wasn't accurate, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean.
So now, what would you think that 2%?
I honestly, I would say, as we move forward and talk about the past, throw June out of the picture. June 2024, the data is just far too inaccurate. There's still, whether it's our dealer group or other dealer groups, we're still figuring out what we did in June, and we're 12 days into July. Making sure that the deal, because we sold a vehicle to you, and then once we were back online 3 or 4 days into July, we had to go back and rebuild everything so that our CDK system understood that we actually sold you that car, and then we have to process it all over again. So it's throw June out.
Yeah, it's a washout. Like even like
'cause that was
when
the
it comes to
first thing
financial
that I
statements,
saw.
we're just like the manufacturer knows it's not accurate. Like parts and service was a mess too, but for like our inventory sake, it's just like it's a washout. We have all the data in there. Everything is correct, but it's just not. It's not going to be as accurate as possible.
And it's not just us. It's going to be half the dealers out there in the country. So let's forget about June. Move on to July.
Well, now we can talk about just the sales and inventory trends as a whole, right? So looking with Cox Automotive, their data was that inventory is up. You mentioned this kind of briefly before, but year over year in June, it's up 15%, and sales are up 14% over the same time period. So is that causing some of that depreciation? I think you kind of mentioned that before, is because the inventory is up.
There's more inventory, supply and demand. So now that there's more new inventory, so more new cars are being purchased, then those new cars are being traded in for another new car. So now there's more trades out there, and there's just more inventory. More inventory means the values are starting to flatten out. Okay. Those peaks are really not there anymore.
The depreciation levels are now below what 2022 was, right? Yep. So now when I was looking through all this data, this is what blew my mind the most about lease equity. If you look at it all listed, remember you're saying COVID with price of vehicles going up?
Yep.
2020 seems pretty normal. You had like $990 in equity in your lease when you got out of it, right? Yep. Let's say you leased it in 2017. They base this all off a 36-month term.
which is the average.
Look at 2021, $7,848. Now I know
there were no new cars.
One technician,
living large.
Jeff Freyhagen at Poughkeepsie Chevy, a technician, paid off his Snap-on toolbox with the equity he had in a Focus ST.
Yep.
But now, if you see, it's all the way back down to 2,541.
Yeah, I'd say by the end of 2024, it's probably going to be half that.
Yeah. That's kind of what Cox was predicting.
We're seeing it already in stores with more. You're getting more negative equity, so it's going to balance out. I think that could go in half or even further. I believe. It's just we're in higher payments. Also, the used vehicle prices are coming down. A lot of people are saying they're going to come down harder than they are, but I think it's going to be a slight decline. But yeah, I think it's going to get worse.
The only thing that may
or normalize. I shouldn't say get worse.
I don't think that's worse. That's
normalize. Go back to
$8,000 in
normal
equity on a lease is insane.
Yeah, the only thing that might throw a little wrench in that is if you look in 2020, half of 2020 was a normal year, roughly, and then once 2020 hit, and then into 2021, you had people had that equity and they were buying out their own lease. They weren't leasing another vehicle. So the trend of, I don't have the numbers, but if there's 1 million leases that are being leased every single month in half of 2020 and 2021, that dropped to a third or a quarter of that because there just weren't any new cars out there. So our lease portfolio, that if you would have leased a car in 2020 or 2021, would be coming due now in 2024. There's just not as many as what historically there would be.
Too, so they're really pushing it out too.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that might affect the used car inventory nationally is if there's not as many lease returns coming due, then you might see a shortage of used cars again, and the supply will go down, and then prices might go up. But
as of right now, you're not seeing that trend.
Yeah, that's just a one of three possibilities that can always occur.
I think the biggest eye-opening for me is that's really you're 4 years past this and it's still not normalized on the used car market side.
Yeah, when I said declining, that's more of a normalized terminology because we're
just
so
blows my mind.
I just listened to a podcast and he was saying we can't even talk about COVID. That was we call it the COVID earnings. We have to get realistic. Like this guy has 49 dealers with the Ziegler Group, and he goes, you got to throw that out. It's called COVID earnings now in our books, and you got to move forward to normalize and get back to action and really operate efficiently the right way, kind of. So
yeah. So now with normalizing, I'm going to move this one segment up. Is like, what do our inventories numbers look like month over month from the last month we did this? Are they still increasing as they were the last couple times?
Yeah, so online right now, when I looked yesterday, it was, so this morning is 400. Yesterday was 413. But again, there's roughly about 20% of our inventory isn't going to show online because there's a 1 or 2 or 3 day lapse in between when a car gets purchased or traded in, and we're selling cars every single day, so.
Well, hopefully we're selling cars.
Yeah, it's not always going to be the total number that we have.
Vehicles that go wholesale as well. So.
But we are doing a better job internally keeping more used vehicles. That vehicle that's priced under $20,000, maybe a vehicle, we're trying to keep more cars over 100,000 miles, where maybe in prior months or years, we just said, it's got 110,000 miles. I don't want to deal with it. I'm not even going to look at it in the shop. Now we're looking at it in the shop and making the decision to keep it or not. And if the Hyundai store says, I'm not going to do it, all of our wholesale cars come to one location now. I oversee the whole thing, and I'll look at it and say, maybe that is a good car. Hyundai didn't want it at their store, but maybe the Chevy store in Middletown wants that because they sell more pickup trucks. So it's work.
And then we have the transporter really transporting the vehicles all over as well. So
I'm gonna have to go look back at the first episode we did this and see what our inventory number is, because I know it wasn't 400.
It was 250.
That's what I was thinking.
So there's a 50% increase right there.
We were begging for vehicles. We were doing anything we could give. I mean, we still want more vehicles, but it was back then. It was like hard, and we were selling double the amount of. We were selling 350 cars and only having like 200 in stock at a time.
Yep. So we're selling more used cars. We definitely we're selling more because we're stocking more. And then you have things like we're talking about earlier, just market changes. So with more out there, that we're able to keep.
I mean, I just looked. We have about 120 vehicles under $20,000. So we have the budget affordably friendly vehicles for everyone. I mean, how many people have $8,000 vehicles on their lot? It's prime time.
Yep.
So
we've got some good stuff.
It's there's a vehicle for everyone, and then I think we have let's see what the highest paid one here.
It's a $85,000 truck.
Raptor. Oh yeah, yep. I know who I've been trying to sell.
So we have a Raptor. We 2023 Audi RS5 TRX.
That RS5 is nice.
Oh my God!
How much is that Sequoia? Right, Sequoia.
That's another one close to
80,000.
Really?
Yep.
And I realized how much that was. But now these prices, I mean, we always talk about it, right? Because looking at the data from Cox, like the average used car loan is over 14%.
Yep.
Right, so that's extremely high. Right, I think I had a lower percent when I financed my first car at like 19. Granted, I had a cosigner, but I'm pretty sure my used car loan was less than that. So I think that's where having those cheaper cars has got to be a huge thing for consumers. It's not even something that's benefiting us. It's something that's benefiting consumers. Like I got a cousin that's in the market, and that's like a price range vehicle he's wanted to buy. Granted, I don't agree with the car he wants to buy. He wants a Honda Fit. I think it's hilarious, but so
you got to do what you got to do. You got to point A to point B. You got to remember that. Not everyone wants to splurge on the car.
That's a price point that he wants to look at, and there's a lot of reasonings behind it. Interest rates are a reasoning because it's pretty mind blowing.
He doesn't want that Sonic though.
Yo, when I tell you he is so set on a Honda Fit, it's crazy.
It's what it is.
Yeah, then he'll find what he wants and travel to go to it. I mean, rates are just a smidge less than I think what they were a month or two ago, but it's basis points, tiny amounts. But these numbers, the average used car loan rate 14%, just over that, and new car just under 10. So yeah, interest rates are much higher than they were 3 years ago. But these also include, this is the entire spectrum. So everybody that, different parts of the country, these numbers fluctuate a little bit. And then there's also buy here, pay here. And different states have different rules. So there's certain states will have laws governing the max rate that you can actually finance a vehicle for. And other states, we
have that law in New York?
Yeah, in New York State, 24.99%, I believe.
That's the highest?
It's the highest it can be.
It's like a credit card percentage.
Yeah, but if you go to...
No, those guys are worse.
It could be, like let's say you're in Texas and Texas doesn't have that rule and you don't have any credit whatsoever. Well, the car dealership can say, I will hold the paper, meaning I'll hold the loan and you pay me. It's called buy here, pay here, and you pay me every single month. And I set it based off of me looking at your credit and saying, I'm 50% rate, and if you're willing to pay the payment, then that's fine. And some people
that's an exaggerated one, but we have guys in our 20 group that's what they do. They hold the paper, they give the car because they know the person needs it. A lot of times this person has bought from them before, so they kind of have some kind of relationship.
With them.
But yeah, they do. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's insane.
It's also very risky, so that's why their interest rates are so high.
Yep.
But they are declining though, like you said, They
are
declined from May. They are higher than last year, but
as a group, we talk, we think we're going to get that rate cut at the end of the year. I mean, the way, especially the data that just came out yesterday, looks good, and hopefully we get a couple rate cuts so that really help the customer as well. And the affordability can even go up even further. And these vehicles will be gone, and they already go quick. They'll go even quicker.
I mean, if we can shave 1% off what the current Fed's rate is, I mean, it's going to affect everything. If it affects then your mortgage the most, and then people will refinance their house, and then they're going to save $400 per month on their house, and then they're going to have extra money to put towards a car or insurance. So once we get rates down a little bit, everyone's going to have some more spending money, and that'll help everything.
It's going to help overall too, because on the news side, just real quick, is a lot of these OEMs are subsidizing these rates. Like they're eating a big chunk of these rates so you can have the affordable leases for people that have credit and stuff like that. So
now, once those rates cut, what do you predict is going to happen to our used inventory? Is it going to decrease? Is it going to go up, like the number of vehicles we have available?
No, I just think that it'll make payments more affordable and in line to what people are used to. And I think that, number one, like Jay said, I think that it's going to make leases better, because right now leases are probably 30 to 50% higher than what they were pre-2019. And
it could be higher if it wasn't for the OEM really taking on a big chunk of it.
So, and then I just think it's gonna help the broad spectrum.
Okay, so it's not going to affect inventory levels positive or
No,
negatively?
because we purchase our used vehicles, so they're not sitting on like a floor plan or anything like that. So it doesn't affect us that way. Would we want more used inventory? Yeah, it's always good to have it.
Okay. I mean, as we're talking about the used car market going back to normal, they've dropped 8.9% year over year since 2023. The last month alone was a 0.6%. Like I said, all this data comes from Cox. I went on their website. They've got all the data you can think of in their news form, like hour-long like webinars you can watch.
I mean, we use all their tools internally, so we have their tools internally, so we see the data live every single day. I mean, he reads it 24/7.
So 8.9%, that's a large difference year over year in terms of the price points to compare June of last year to now.
But that's pretty much normal. I mean, and we're just used to the last 3.5 years of COVID, where the car went up and up and up, and then it stayed the same for a very long time. And, so dropping 1% every single month is typical. Sometimes it's a 3% drop in a single month. I mean, that's just what life was, and now we just have to get used to that
also,
again.
You'll see your market and some of the tools we have like change daily. Like we have a tool that like Viauto will change daily, but these guys are so on top of the inventory, we're able to move it when it knows, and you're watching the market all the time. You're adjusting your prices every single day if need be.
Yep.
Yeah. So like that won't happen to us because we're on top of it. And I feel bad for the dealers that don't watch it, because then they get stuck. They have a vehicle way overpriced. They're not watching the market. They're sitting on it now, and now it's stale. Like we're moving vehicles out, getting rid of them if need be, and then like we have guys that are hawks that are addicted to the Viauto thing, just adjusting.
And now, are those the sales managers? Those are other positions.
The sales managers are doing, and I'm overseeing everything. And the general managers have their hand in it, and in our organization. But like Jay's saying, the old way to do it is you would get book values. Like if you want to go way back, it was literally a book, and you'd flip through it, and it would tell you this is what it is.
NADA gave me one for.
So now you'd have KBB would give you values, NADA, which is now JD Power, would give you values, and that's called your book values. And so if a car had a book value of a trade,
that's so hilarious that you're making me realize where that term book value came from.
Oh yeah. It's from an actual book.
It was called the Galv's book way back in the day. So if
NADA gives you one, like, because I went to school, but now they don't do it anymore. But I got a book. I'm sure you got one too.
Yeah. So if they say trade-in is $20,000 and retail is $25,000, the old way of doing it is, okay, we're going to try to take the car in and we're going to put money into it and try to sell it for $25,000. Every month you get a new set of book value. So if that car didn't sell, and then next month that $25,000 went down to $24,500, you change the price $500, and that's just, you sold cars based off of the book values. There's still some dealers that do that, but in today's day with all this information out there, you have a book value, and yes, now you look at KBB, you look at Black Book, you look at JD Power, but then you look at what the market is. So if
your market too, so we can't be the same as the city.
What is the market day supply? Is there a 100-day supply, or is there a 20-day supply? A car with a 20-day supply means that car theoretically should sell itself in 20 days. That's a lot better of a vehicle to have than a car that has a 200-day supply. You might, but if I look at it today and it says there's a 20-day supply, And then I look at it again on Wednesday, and maybe Enterprise flooded the market with 15,000 Malibus that because they just bought more Malibus from Chevy. Now my 20-day supply just went to a 140-day supply. I can't keep my vehicle priced at what I had it at unless I change that price drastically to get the eyes out there and people go, whoa, there's just a $2,000 price cut. Then the car's never going to sell.
And you got to remember, the consumer has like all the information on their side too. They're being able to compare all the vehicles, the mileage, how far from where they are, and everything, and they'll see multiple. Like if you're not priced accurately and you're like highest in the price, the customer's going to automatically kick you to the curb.
And the websites tell you if they're overpriced.
Yeah, well,
You know, like if you're shopping and you're looking at like car
some do.
I don't think that they don't. I would say that
I don't know what data they base it off though.
they just base it off of the MSRPs. But then there's a lot of things with that too. We live in New York State. We're selling vehicles in New York State. There's a $175 dock fee. If you go down to Jersey, I think it's what, 1,900.
No, it's 500. They're capped.
Yeah, but can't
Florida's 1,000.
2,000.
Can't
flat
Jersey
files.
like add bullshit to
Yeah,
their
no,
stuff,
they could.
though?
So that's their dock fee. They could add some other fees, but like New York, we're capped at $175, which doesn't cover the bill of documentation at all.
And talking about other states, so you might have a vehicle cleaning fee. You can charge exorbitant amounts of money for gap insurance, where in New York State it's just whatever the bank offers it for, whether it's $250, $350, $450. There's no selling of that product. In other states, you can sell life insurance when you buy a car and you're in the finance department office and you're going to take delivery of your vehicle. Well, if you die in that vehicle, there is a life insurance policy that you can purchase, and every state again is
All different rules.
So in New York State, that's why circling all the way back. If I am just comparing just New York State dealers, well, we can price our car this way, and we can't add all these extra things. But if I live in Florida, I can say I'm selling the car for $2,000 less, and my price is going to be $2,000 less than the New York State dealer, but I have a $1,000 fee and a $2,000 this and that, which I get on every single car, and everybody's used to it. Everybody that buys a car in Florida, it's not like they're like, oh man, this dealer's doing this to me, and no, everybody does it because it's what the state allows.
Skew market data though?
And that's why it skews it a little bit. Is when you're comparing a good deal versus fair deal, you have to look at the whole picture. And not just that first number.
That also goes into our appraisal process too, because we want to be very fair to the consumer, because we want to get them into that next car they want, whether it's a used or new.
Yeah.
And then also when we're taking this in, and then a customer's like, oh, why are you a little bit? Because we're still getting the calls and leads. We're very good at saying, hey, this is a New Jersey dealer. You got to remember they also have documentation fee. We have this fee. You don't see that in that price.
I've seen dealers list vehicle that the price is $30,000, but there's an asterisk underneath that says this price includes 20% down payment. So their price is really, I don't remember what number I said, but if they're saying it's 30, it's really 36,000. But that price, so when you go to Car Gurus and it says this is a fantastic price, it can't, that's an algorithm and it can't tell. The computer can't see those little add-ons. So that's why you have to do a little bit of homework.
We want consumers to know too, like when we put a vehicle online to sell, it's like, it goes through our shop, goes through a crazy inspection process. It's good to go. It's inspected by New York State, which is one of the most difficult things to get inspected on. You go to PA, you could put a sticker on anything.
Yeah.
So we are taking care of this vehicle. We're putting a safe product on the road because we know it has families, friends, everyone's in it. So it's not just, hey, we put some stick and glue on it, some tape and glue on it and send it out there. So like people
It's funny, my son was just watching Matilda yesterday, and Danny DeVito's putting on super duper glue or whatever and smacking the bumper on.
They're getting tires and stuff like that. Like our technicians care, and they're putting a good high quality product that we stand behind on the road. So some dealers not so much. Other states also don't have rules like that.
Yeah.
So
I can think of one situation. I remember I was saying my cousin wants a Honda Fit, right? If he goes, when he was looking at Car Guru with me, every Honda Fit in the area was coming back that it was overpriced. In a 50-mile radius, there was like 6 of them, right? So now I'm assuming that's going to skew some type of data. Like dealerships have to be playing off the market supply, like you're saying, in terms of pricing their vehicle. So, excuse me. So now I'm assuming those Honda Fits realistically aren't overpriced because there's only 6 of them.
Yeah. So Car Gurus might have their own value of what they think it should be. But when you start going to, what was the price of the vehicle?
I don't remember. I think they were around anywhere between like 15 to 20,000, something like that.
Okay, so it's a relatively newer one. It's not. He's not looking at.
Yeah, I think they stopped like producing them in like 18 or something like that.
So that affects things that the system doesn't know. I mean, if you a if the car has a cult following, Chevy Avalanche, they don't make them anymore. And maybe it should only be worth $20,000, but because they don't make them anymore, people are willing to pay more for them. So if you're asked $25,000, and you would have people willing to shell out money for you left and right, but car gurus might say you're overpriced. But if everybody's at it, it's because there's so many factors.
There's that one vehicle in a million that you have, like that Chevrolet Avalanche, and everyone knows it. There's none in the market, but that's why you're getting the market data from like vAuto, and we're pricing according to the market. We're being very, very fair. We're not the cheapest dealer, but we have good product. We're priced right, and we want the vehicles to move. It's not like we're making a ton of money on these vehicles. We want them to move. We want the customer to come back in. We want them to service with them. We want to put our used vehicles through the shop to help our service department. So there's a lot going on. The consumer needs to understand that what we're doing is putting a high quality, very fair priced vehicle on the road for them to look at. So
and we're making those price decisions daily, worst case scenario weekly. So if we go back and we have Enterprise flood the market with 150,000 Malibus, and we will look at it, and the car might only be a week old, but we make that decision and say, well, we wanted to ask 20,000, we can't ask 20,000, now it's 18,000. Customer, well, why'd you drop the price 2,000? And we can explain to them, there's no way we can sell this for 20. You're just going to take the hit. It doesn't matter if it's a week old or a day old. Sometimes you just have to change. You have to make an executive decision, change it, because our livelihood is to sell cars. And if you stay static and put your foot down and say, I'm not going to take a loss on this. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to hold it. We're going to hold. You're going to have a car that's 6 months old that's now only worth $13,000, and now how much are you going to lose? So take the loss really quickly, make good decisions, price often, and
there's people that want that car that just we weren't adjusting it. We missed a couple days, and then that person now moved on, found the vehicle at the right price. Because we're getting that data too. Like, why did 10 people look at this car? Why did they click on it? And we're not selling it because we're not pricing it. We're not pricing it quickly enough. We're taking our eye off the ball. And like some of our managers, like my brother, he'll go in there. He's out there every morning. He's crazy about it. But but there's little things. That's why we're on top of it, and we want to move. The thing is to take care of the customer, get the customer the car they want. That's at the end of the day. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to do anything crazy, and that's just the simplicity of it.
Yep.
Okay. So I mean, to summarize everything, right? So prices are declining, rates are declining, supplies going up. So that's going to make people's purchasing easier over this next half of the year, because you have more cars to choose from, your rates are going down, and your prices are declining.
Yeah.
So
as of right now, tomorrow or next month, we might have a completely different discussion. Anything could happen.
But that's why you want to look at this monthly.
Like if you're on vAuto, like I don't go on as much as these guys, but I'd go on, and there's changes like sometimes that are so drastic in our market, and we're not, like I said, we're in our market. We're not trying to go to all the way to New York City and stuff like that. It's just irrelevant to us because it's a different world up here.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how much it changes. But one thing I would say is, obviously, our bread and butter is the brands we have for used vehicles. We have great certified Chevy, Ford, Kia, Hyundai, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, all those brands. Mitsubishi, like we have these certified brands. Those are our bread and butter. Obviously, those are the trade-ins we get. But we do have a vehicle for everyone. We have luxury Land Rovers. We have Toyotas, Hondas. We have BMWs, Mercedes. We have everything for everyone. We have an $8,000 vehicle up to a $90,000 vehicle right now. But we'll buy anything and we'll sell just about anything. So, like I said, a vehicle for everyone. We have the banks and partnerships to get them the deal they want with the best possible rates in the market. So, I'd say don't be scared. Just come and talk to someone as well. It's very important. Let us work for you, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and the one part of this I forgot to talk about were the top-selling vehicles at Manheim, right? You explained to me why the first one is, because I didn't get it, because it's a 23, right? The Model 3 rear-wheel drive, but $12,000 decrease in value over the last year. But then you got to.
But that's also because he decreased the value of the new ones.
That's what Brian was explaining.
It is the number one selling. That vehicle is the number one selling EV. I think in the New York City area, it was the number one. It was the Model 3. It outsold Chevrolet. So not even against other EVs, but it was the number one selling vehicle, period. So there's a ton of them out there. And then, like we discussed, Elon Musk can say, hey, well, I'm going to drop the price $15,000 of the new one. So your 1 year model old one now is not worth what it was a month ago. Now your value. Yeah. So that's the thing. We going all the way back to the very first topic we talked about, is that the new car industry really dictates the used car industry.
And now it's like I said, it's normalizing because we have the more inventory. They are going to incentivize heavily going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already seeing, but like a
So
0% on 84 months. How does it? That's a deal right now on a new
Talking
car.
about the Hornet.
That hasn't been around in a long time.
But
So.
that's insane.
It's pretty wild. Now, I want to question, I want to know if you would understand why. Like, why specifically a 2021 Explorer or a 2023 Bolt or a 2021 F-150 V6? Like, why does Cox have it so specific to what are the top selling vehicles? You know what I mean? Like, do you know why it would be those 3 years and
The
those
highest
three
value
vehicles?
vehicles like selling.
So 2021, because we're in 2024, so those are leases that came due.
So that's why there's
Yeah.
more.
And they're being sold because the manufacturer, if the dealer doesn't opt to buy it if you have that vehicle, you turn it in, you don't want it, you're not going to keep it, the dealer doesn't want it, isn't going to keep it, and then Ford sells it on one of these auction houses. And it gets recorded, and it is very specific. 2021 is not going to be muddled with the 2022, so it's always going to be by model year, and then the brand, the model, and then even the trim level. So 2021 Ford F-150 V6, that's the EcoBoost engine, and they do break that down because they don't want to compare it to the 5.0. The V6 outsells their 5.0 V8 by probably 10 to 1. So there's more of a market for the V6. So those values are probably a little bit higher than the 5.0. So
I'm guessing that's 2021, so that's also leases coming in.
Ford F-150s also lease at a pretty high percentage. In our market, not at everywhere, in Texas and is not going to be the same as, California has 10 times more lease percentage. But Chevy Bolt, it's because that price point, that Chevy Bolt, now because it's $17,000, a dealer can then retail it still for less than $25,000. So if you meet those federal guidelines for the IRS tax credit, you get that rebate right
Does
up.
it work? Because it's a 2023. Doesn't it have to be older?
No.
It has to be, I think it's two model years or older. So, I mean, maybe people are holding them. But to get an EV, I bet these are all out in California too. Yeah, where the infrastructure's there, for sure.
Yeah, the infrastructure's not here. I'm learning that.
And we're doing some of it right across the street.
Yeah, if you want to go look at it, we'll see how often that gets used. But all right,
right.
we're all set.
Honestly,
Nicky?
this was positive, though. Yeah, I like
It was
this
good.
episode. It was
I mean,
positive
there-
news.
Sometimes the industry puts doom and gloom on you. It's normalizing. Let's not use my God, it's going down. But
It was positive.
yeah.
Like, very, very positive.
I think we're okay. We're always monitoring it, and the customers in good hands. So.
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, hit that subscribe button, and follow us at Healey Brothers on all social platforms.
That's the only thing that might affect the used car inventory nationally is if there's not as many lease returns coming due, then you might see a shortage of used cars again, and the supply will go down, and then prices might go up. But